Joining the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, changes or additions to the agenda. We have some additional bills this evening. Other than that, anything?
Just one more early retirement, early graduation request.
Okay,
So,
let's see, where should we put that? Under new business, probably item F.
yeah.
Okay, any others?
I don't have any.
The motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
A motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes past meetings, financial report, summary list of bills, including the additional ones from Jackie this evening. And earlier today in email. Comments there, including the amended financial report for cash balance in October. Jackie also sent out an email. Lorna?
One clarification that Andy asked about was the registration payments that you saw, quite significant amounts. What happens is that registration, which we finally were able to balance in the end of October, mid to end of October, was all of it comes into a payables or a floater account into our hot lunch account, and then it's balanced and dispersed to activity tickets and textbooks from there. So there are payments from the hot lunch fund to the activity fund and to the general account for that purpose.
Okay, any other comments or questions on those items? We're going to include the 5-year Pebble and Save projection in this as well.
I just had it listed as a report,
Okay.
and so,
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I can see.
Yep.
Okay. Are there no questions or on those things? Is there a motion to approve those 3 items?
So moved. Second.
Motion second to approve the minutes of past meetings, financial report and summary list of bills with the amendments as discussed and additional list of bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recognition, congratulations to student, staff, and community.
so I had placed another piece of paper there for you. A couple weeks ago, All-State Choir auditions were done virtually, and congratulations to Anna Van Artsen, selected to All-State Choir. There is no All-State Festival this year, but the recognition still is very deserving. And then also want to recognize Anna Wernchees and Gabby Rasmussen for auditioning. So 3 auditions, 1 selected to the All-State Choir. Athletics, you probably saw that we had the boys team qualified, and then Mary Schriever qualified as an individual for cross country. So week and a half ago now was the cross country meet, and you can see their results there. Volleyball wrapped up their season a couple weeks ago. Varsity 10 and 14, JV 14 and 4, and freshmen undefeated. So successful season for all 3 squads. You can see Paige Deeren, Hayden Hymanson, Emma Peterson, and Whitney Wagmeister were recognized as Academic All-Conference and Academic All-State for their achievement in the classroom, and then for their performance on the floor. Hayden Hymanson, Reagan Van Wy, and Paige Deeren, 2nd, 3rd, and honorable mention recognitions. And then Coach Shar did share with me that the team did tie the team serving percentage at 95.7%, kind of going back to the 80s with that statistic. So that was accomplishment by the entire team. And then Hayden Hymanson climbed into the top 10, 7th all-time in digs. So congratulations to the volleyball team on their successful season. And then football will play at 4 o'clock on Saturday down in Cedar Falls at the Unidome, take on Comanche. So, very successful fall seasons. Tonight, we had our very first junior high basketball games. Played Sibley, 7th grade went to Sibley, 8th grade played at home. So that got kicked off. Girls basketball practice started tonight. And then boys basketball practice and wrestling technically could get started a week from today. Depending upon the football team's position, there might be different number of kids participating depending upon when the season ultimately ends for those practices. And then I do really want to thank our video sponsors, Avera, DeNoble Austin and Company, Frontier Bank, Pepsi, Pizza Ranch, Premier Bank, and Sanford for helping us to broadcast all of our postseason games. Their regular season, we broadcast using our YouTube channel, and we incur some pretty minimal expenses when it comes to doing that. But once we get into the postseason, the athletic associations, the girls and the boys, do charge us each time we play. So every time we host, for football, for example, first round was $400, and then it was $500 the last 2 rounds. So $1,400 just to broadcast the boys, and then we hosted the very first round of the volleyball. That was $250 on the girls' side. So our sponsors made one phone call, and they all jumped on board and said, yeah, we want to make sure that this is available, especially in a COVID situation. And so we want to make sure we thank them for helping us with that. Principals, you got anybody else you'd like to recognize, students or staff or community?
Okay, we'll move on then. Communications, public participation on non-agenda items. I did not see anyone sign up to address the board. Correspondence?
I didn't have anything, Jackie.
Okay, we'll move on to principal reports.
Only thing to report really is we just completed our parent-teacher conferences this last week. We don't have the attendance percentages for you yet, but we did a number of new things this year, especially at the middle school, high school level, with signing up online and having the high school teachers be in their classrooms due to, obviously, social distancing. That went over, I think, pretty well. I think people appreciated the scheduling, and also gave us a really nice opportunity to showcase some of the classrooms and things that people don't normally get to see, because typically they just know the gym and the auditorium. So we ran into a little obstacle that first night. No one knew where to go. So I did print off some maps and put them in various places to kind of help with traffic flow, but I know I saw Scott there, and I saw a few others there, and the feedback I got was pretty good. So I don't know the exact percentages yet, but it was nice to see people go into the classrooms down high school level.
And just to reiterate off that, elementary also took part of the online for those parents who wanted that option. Went over very well. There were no hiccups with technology, where either we sent the computer home with that student that day to make sure that they had access to their email account, which worked very well in our Teams platform. We'll have to do the same type of process for the spring conferences, where our people could sign up again and use what works in their system. But a lot of comments from parents and teachers I talked to about having that format to make sure. Now the parents that didn't utilize either format, we'll just make sure we get a hold of them and follow up with a phone call. So that way we have the best communication we can with all our parents. So.
An idea on the percentage of parents elementary that did Teams on versus
You will get
in-person?
that. Yeah, we were,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately, we're fighting a few sub problems, and so we're kind of short-staffed today to compile all that. But yes, we
Sure.
will
Just
break it
curious.
down as far as each class percentages, and then also have a breakdown of, before, a few of them did change the day of conferences from in-person to virtual, but it was right about 20% did the online, what we were estimating before the conferences. So I'll see if that still matches. But we had a few call in and switch, so we worked them.
Okay, good. Anything else? Steve, Jason? Yep. Jackie, anything?
Nothing.
Board members? Mr. Jordan?
So in the packet, like Dave referenced, is the kind of the overview of the PEPL and SAVE kind of history, where we are currently, 2020 to 2021, and then projections, what is that, 7 years into the future. And so, reviewed this, again, about a couple weeks ago with the Buildings and Grounds, and we went through all the spreadsheets that support that, whether it's vehicles or kind of the building and land improvements, kind of the roof replacement schedule and stuff like that. If anybody's interested in those specific worksheets, I'd be happy to share those with you as well. But wanted to give you an update since you'd asked last month for that.
Yeah.
The detail does include, I discussed with Mr. Dorr, the detail does include set amounts for things like carpet and painting and locker restoration, and things that we might not spend, but it is included in that detail as a, for instance, so. We could end higher than this, we could end a little lower than this based on those things.
Sure. Andy and I talked about this briefly earlier today. Would it make sense to have maybe even a brief work session with the board to go through some of those details? And for me, at least, being on the finance committee, it would be nice to get a little bit better understanding, and maybe the spreadsheets would give some of that detail. I don't know, anybody else have thoughts about that? Jack, or Andy, and, Carrie, and Joel, you probably have gone through that in a fair amount of detail already.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't see it on the other side either on finance, so, put them together a little bit, I think that'd be all right.
Yeah, so we, whether it's December or January, or as we get closer to the spring, if you'd like to see that updated detail and kind of go through it and spend a little bit more time, like you said, in a work session.
Yeah, I don't wanna spend a lot of
after.
time here, but,
Yep.
Have a separate work session to go through some of it at least.
Yep.
And get a better understanding of it, if anything, we may say, well, maybe that's not enough to budget at this point.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about that probably than over budgeting.
Yeah.
Because as we see, we're up to $2 million plus 5-6 years from now.
Yeah, and doing both phases of the restroom remodel this last summer kind of lends itself to us maybe thinking about that next project that the board wants to target. And is that 3 years down the road? Is that 5 years down the road? When is that next bigger project coming?
I'm just kind of brainstorming about some of those things. You certainly probably have a better idea than any of us, as not being in the school every day, but so
Yeah, and we want to have Steve Bresky in here answering any questions, or
Sure.
Jeremy when it comes to the vehicle fleet and transportation, stuff like that. We can include those kind of directors of those different departments too. Be just a good opportunity for you guys to ask them any questions directly. And I know we've moved some of our technology purchases away from kind of the, we've been splitting it between casino funds, and we kind of made that determination in a budgeting process that was gonna go into the PEPAL save. And so, Curtis and Jeff could kind of review some of those reoccurring expenses, but also some of the projects that they have working to.
I think it's a good move to put the technology, particularly into the PEPAL and save.
Yep.
Okay.
Next report there is some maps of the proposed land swap with Rock Rapids Development Corp. And so, in visiting with Carrie and Joel a couple weeks ago, but then reviewing that information with Dave and Andy, I circled back around with Micah, still trying to connect with Randy Wagmeister, but the property that the Development Corp has acquired is zoned agricultural. It is within city limits or city property, and so the zoning regulations are still the city's determination. But, I think what Andy and David asked is maybe getting Randy and Micah, the Buildings and Grounds Committee, back together and just having a conversation, because about 5 years ago, 2015, I think there was a conversation at the board level about an annexation of the similar type of property between the city and the school. And just making sure everybody's on the same page, and there's, because Micah wasn't at the development group at that time, I wasn't obviously here. Randy had advised the board 5 years ago, you know, kind of to deny that request from the city. So when I can get all those parties in the room together, Buildings and Grounds Committee will kind of revisit that and kind of review that history. And just make sure that any of that property that the school currently owns remains a learning opportunity for our ag students and our FFA. And we have that opportunity, whether it's, you know, in the plant or the animal science side of things.
So help me out here, Brent, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm looking at the first page. So the red piece is what we own, but don't we own part of this also?
Yep, so basically the,
So our
East.
property goes up to the corner here, right?
correct, yep,
And all along the eastern half then of the blue section.
yep,
So
the
blues-
development group has acquired the western side of that.
This side, the western
Yep.
side of this, okay, so they're proposing, give us this in exchange for this.
Correct.
That's what I thought.
So essentially, we'd have more of a square than a long skinny rectangle. But the acreage, so to speak, would remain the same. We wouldn't lose any land. The work for the FFA would be some of the fencing that's been put up for cattle in the past would be, you know, re-fencing that property. But again, my conversations with Josh Rockhill, again, as long as we have the property and we have it's not rezoned anything and it remains agricultural land, you know, a long skinny piece versus a more square piece isn't anything that he's concerned about.
And you said all of it is currently within city limits?
Yes.
Because I think, wasn't that part of the
Well,
conversation?
just a sliver of, what is it, page 25 of the PDF?
Yeah.
That sliver that would come up into our property is what is in city limits.
I thought the majority of it wasn't in city limits. No?
The FFA property is not.
It's
in
not,
city
right?
limits, correct.
Okay, that's what I thought, because like, before we were officially board members,
Yep.
that's when it was, that's when this was discussed with Foreman from the city at the time
Correct.
on wanting to annex the city, taking over that, just saying, hey, we're gonna make this city property now. We were, I would say, we weren't on the board then, but the board was advised to say, we don't wanna do that. They didn't really take too kindly to that, so.
It was, I think the decision was made by one of the previous boards. It was the night you and I were sworn in back in 15.
Yeah,
So that's where we just want to make sure we're clear on everything between the development group, Randy, since Randy was involved 5 years ago, and nothing's changed there. But if it can remain agricultural land, everybody understands going forward, we want that property to remain agricultural for the FFA and ag students. I guess we wouldn't, as a school district, incur any cost to kind of swap that land. Any of the titling and surveying, the development group would take care of. And then my third and final report then is made aware of in the last week that the hospital, Avera Merrill Pioneer Hospital, starting today, has the availability of rapid testing for students and staff. So Avera receives some funding through the CARES dollars at the state level. And anybody that's a student or works for the school district, as long as they have a physician's visit and the physician essentially orders a rapid test, you can get a test result in approximately a half hour. So wanted to share that. Now, families doctor with Sanford or a different medical group, Their physician can refer them to the lab essentially at Avera, and there wouldn't be any costs associated with the actual testing. It would only be a physician's visit cost, whatever their insurance plan might be. But as that last sentence says there, it's our hope, as we've seen with the PCR testing, it takes, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even more days to get those results back. But the rapid testing would be something that you could have within a half hour to an hour time frame. But again, students or staff would have to be symptomatic, they would have to see a doctor to have that order. So if you guys are okay, my plan would be tomorrow to kind of push this out on our GMC email system so that everybody's aware that it's available. And then, unfortunately, it's not available for the public at large, so like parents of students wouldn't necessarily qualify. It would just be the students, and then the only adults would be those 125 plus staff members that are employed by the school district.
I think maybe before sending it out, just make sure that, I thought I had heard that Sanford was also gonna have the capability in their clinic as well, so I would make sure that it's not that way before you send it out, or it is that way, just to.
Yeah, I was on a call this morning with Sanford. They don't have that
Don't have it yet.
capacity yet,
Okay.
but I think they've requested a similar type of allotment.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, this first wave of rapid testing was
Sure.
sent to Avera. So I've been kind of communicating and sharing what I was planning with both of those entities since we have a clinic with Sanford affiliation and the hospital.
Okay, very good. Any other reports?
I have none.
Okay, we have no old business, so we will move into the annual meeting portion of the meeting. So Brent, I think you take it from here, or Jackie?
Jackie can, yep. She's the president pro tem, as they say.
Okay.
So the first course of business is nominations for president of the Central Line Board of Directors.
I will nominate Andy for president.
I'll second. We have a first and a second for Andy for president. Any other comments? Seems as though it's agreed upon, unless there's other nominations. We would like to vote. I don't
Just
know
as
if
a
there's
formality,
necessarily-
Is that a question?
Do we need to?
I don't know. I don't think we voted in the past. We just nomination cease.
I guess it's pretty obvious if there's only one nomination, that's a,
Yep.
then that's a
Sounds
motion
good.
second. I think.
Any nominations for vice president of the board of directors?
Am I allowed to nominate as president?
Yeah, there's nothing that
So she's-
precludes that.
I would nominate Dave Jantz for vice president.
I'll second. Any other nominations or any other discussion? All right, we will move forward as those are the new nominations. And with an oath of office for our president and our vice president. Andy, as president, do you solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of president for the Central Lyon Community School District as now or hereafter required by law? If so, answer yes, I will do so.
Yes, I will do so.
Mr. Jans, do you solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of vice president for the Central Lyon Community School District as now or hereafter required by law? If so, answer yes, I will do so.
Yes, I will do so.
Very good. Mr. President, you may take over.
Thank you, Jackie. Item D, committee selection and appointments. So the current appointments are included in the board packet. Anybody have any thoughts on those?
I think they look fine. Policy certainly has gotten a little lighter,
That is true.
which is all right, I suppose, for me, but I think I would appreciate to be able to stay on sharing and stay on buildings and grounds. I certainly enjoy those and being involved in that capacity.
Dave and I discussed that he would like to move into my position on the personnel committee,
Okay.
so I am okay with that.
Is Joel, have you been serving as the assessor's liaison?
Yeah, I've gone to one of those. There's one I could make it to and one I couldn't.
Yeah, I think it's called the conference board.
Yeah, something like that. There was like a city, I wanna say,
It's the assessor.
yeah, it was the mayor and then like a school board rep and a couple other people from the county, I wanna say.
Yes, basically what you have to do is approve the assessor's budget.
Yeah,
That's the main thing.
yep.
So Joel has done that, did that this past year, past 12 months anyway. So if you're interested in continuing to do that.
You're welcome to have that.
I did do it for a few years.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So you know what it
Working out of
entails.
town. Pardon?
So you know what it entails.
Me working out of town, it's a little more of a challenge for me to get there,
Sure.
so that's,
I can do it for you, Joel.
All right. I also technically work out of town.
Last year,
Not as far.
Dave and Carrie were the school improvement SIAC members,
yes.
so I know that wasn't listed on there.
I would be interested in continuing that.
Yeah, I would be too.
Okay. Well, I think we have a path forward then. Do you need me to read them out or do you got them, Jackie?
I got it.
Okay. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve those committee selections.
Second. Motion and second to approve the committee selections as discussed. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item E, determination of time and place of regular school board meetings. 7:00 PM on Monday, just like tonight. Anybody have any interest in any changes? Okay. I'm good with that as well. Can I get a motion on that one?
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the regular school board meeting date and time as the second Monday at 7:00 PM. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. New business. Brent, take it away.
Yes, so, in the packet, and then as an addendum, you have the policy, review and then revisions. And so the first three listed, 100, 101, and 104, with the exhibits and the reference. There is no language changes on those three. The 102 with the exhibits and the reference, 103, 105, 106, and 107 are kind of spelled out in the memo. And then the rescinding of policy 500 is as a result of the new language in 102 around equal opportunity. And so, again, these are aligning with ISB recommendations. Not necessarily changing the intent of any of the policies, and just kind of updating the language and trying to align as closely as we can with ISB. The new policies there were the assistance animals. Again, you can see those assistance animals, we did not include emotional support or therapy animals. And then the policy also kind of states what the rules are for administrators when kind of assessing any assistance animals and students or staff members that might have those going forward. And then 106 is the discrimination or harassment based on sex. Really, changes in Title IX have led to this new policy. So that's resulted in what we currently had at 106 being renumbered for 107 for sex offenders. And the process for anybody that's on the sex offender registry to have to fill out a form and ask for permission before just showing up at any events or school activities.
Do we have any people actively attending activities, et cetera, that are required to fill out that form?
Yes. Yep, and so Mr. Harmon actually is kind of the person that gets all that information, interviews and talks to the individuals, and then those site supervisors that we have at each event is made aware of that person that's there. And then if we have any law enforcement, we inform them of that as well.
I was aware of one that started a few years ago.
Yep.
And I'm sure this person is still required to. I don't think you ever get off the list, do you? Maybe at some point, but anyway, this
Right.
person is probably still required to fill out the form every time they want to come to an event or conferences, whatever it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Okay.
And then if if we get any updates from Lyon County, but then similar type of thing, if we have somebody from another school that's coming here, there to notify us before just showing up. Yep.
Okay.
So that's kind of just that 10,000 foot review of the policy.
So we have a combination of 100 series here, essentially all of the 100 series, both review and first reading of changes.
Yep.
And we also have rescinding policy 500 in there. Assuming we need to do those separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, again, the board, if you guys want to have a second reading on the ones that we've updated the language, happy to include those in next month's meeting. And if you just wanted to have the review of those that don't really have any language change, you could waive the second reading on those, or you could waive the second reading on everything, whatever you guys are comfortable with.
So we'll take items 1 and 2 first. If anybody would care to make a motion there?
Anyone have a desire to have a second reading? I'll make a motion to approve the 100 series items 1 and 2 and waive the second reading.
Second.
A motion and second to approve and waive the second reading of the 100 series. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And then we could entertain a motion here to rescind policy 500.
Make a motion to rescind policy 500.
Second.
Motion and second to rescind policy 500. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. And then B, consider activity bus bids.
So Jeremy has included 3 different bids for an activity bus. And as you can see in his materials, these activity buses, even though the literature says up to 36 or 30 passengers, it would only be a 15-passenger vehicle. So instead of a yellow school bus, it would be a white school bus. So the difference here is if you're driving a yellow school bus, you have to have a CDL. The Department of Transportation and Department of Education have kind of rewritten some rules and some regulations. And so this activity bus, as I'll call it, wouldn't require the driver to obtain a CDL. And so they would have to have a chauffeur's license. And for the vast majority of folks, if If you have a clean driving record, it's just a matter of showing up at the DMV and kind of paying your fee and upgrading to that chauffeur's license. If you do have some items on your record, then you would have to pass a test and kind of show your competency in the rules. So what would be nice is this would kind of serve a need where we're having fewer and fewer individuals willing to get their CDL or, you know, drive those activity routes. Many of our, you know, lower level, whether it's junior high or JV or freshman teams could benefit from this, and a coach or assistant coach could drive their team to their competition. Once we get into speech season or contests for band and choir, we could have either the sponsor of that activity or maybe even a parent drive and sponsor and get kids to and from. So right now our largest van and the rules that the DOT has and Department of Transportation limits us to 8 passenger vans, 9 including the driver. So this kind of almost doubles that. And again, just kind of diversifies our fleet and gives us another option to get kids to their activities. We could not use this to transport kids to and from school. So it's specifically just an activity bus to and from different events.
You can't use it as to transport kids to and from school because it's not yellow?
Correct.
Is the number of passengers the reason for requiring the chauffeur's license, and is it up to 15 with the chauffeur's license?
I don't know the exact limitation on the chauffeur's license, but
It's probably that on the size of the vehicle, I would imagine, to a certain extent. Being a little longer probably than a traditional car, but I don't think it's a tough sell for.
No, for some reason, I'm thinking that the chauffeur's license limits you to how many passengers you can take. I'm not sure about that.
do you know?
Yeah, I have mine.
Okay.
It's up to 16 passengers.
Okay.
Including the driver?
Not that I want to drive this. I have mine.
Why not?
This is what the kids club driver and the blue bus
It looks like the same size, yeah.
They utilize a chauffeur's license.
Oh, okay. So when a coach, for example, drives this bus to an activity,
Yep.
do they get paid extra for being the driver?
That would be our intention, is to pay them essentially a shuttle bus stipend. So we're not necessarily paying them an hourly wage for the time that they're coaching their team or supervising the group of kids that are at contests and stuff. So we would pay them a kind of to and return shuttle.
Okay.
We currently do that with a track coach and softball coaches already, who have their CDL.
Okay. And where does that, when do we and when don't we? So for example, if a band director takes a van, for example, do we pay them in a van?
Right now, it's only for those with the CDL. So we haven't been paying, if you're just taking, you know, the football team, for example, someone's driving the expedition with the trailer. We aren't paying that individually.
We're not paying that?
No.
No, okay. I'm just trying to avoid potential conflict here and saying, well, I don't get paid for this vehicle, but I do get paid for this vehicle. Okay, so I wanna take this vehicle, you know, those types of things.
Yep.
When, okay, maybe they should be taking the expedition or a van. I don't know, just make sure we don't get into those types of
Yeah.
issues.
And I think that's maybe something our personnel committee can talk about. We can have a conversation with our association during negotiations about maybe putting this on some sort of schedule. So it's very transparent about who's.
Hey, just, right, making sure that, excuse me, we're transparent about when you do and don't get paid extra for that fee.
Activity that you're.
Activity, right.
Yep.
Okay.
Carrie and Joel, any comments from the Buildings and Grounds Committee?
No, I'd be for it, just in the broad sense of being able to diversify how many students can go and just different teams, different activities. You know, anything from speech and mock trial to 7th grade volleyball or whatever, basketball, whatever have you. I mean, 14 is about enough full of a team that you're trying to find a full, you know, a big bus to take all those kids in when you can have something that's a little more nimble. That would be easier. I think it just.
And then not having to find that bus driver that you have to pay to be there the whole day for some of these activities when somebody else is capable of driving them in a small vehicle, so.
And it's easier, I think, you know, Jeremy talked about talking to parents that are gonna have kids involved in these different activities, and this is maybe a way to get them comfortable driving and maybe even recruiting that person, hey, you can drive the activity bus, have you thought about getting your CDL? So it's another recruiting tool that might open up doors to more bus drivers down the road.
Is there anything special when we have parents drive that, and they have that chauffeur's license for this or whatnot? Do we have those situations now where parents are?
We have a couple parents that have their CDL, you know, and again, we've gotta list them as a bus driver.
Okay.
I'm not, because we haven't done this yet, I don't know if these individuals have to be listed on something separate that they have their chauffeur's license. Something I can check into.
When would we take delivery?
I'm not positive when we can take delivery. So on my first activity bus, I went to my first meeting out of the district in Lamar's last week, and on my way to Lamar's, I saw this white, smaller bus that said activity bus on the top. So, you know, other school districts are beginning to add these to their fleets.
Sure.
If it's like any other bus that we purchase, it'll be a few months. If it's brand new.
Yeah, I don't think he gave us a time.
Yeah, I don't.
At least not that I recall.
Be interesting to see if COVID pushed the factory work out at all, but.
Yeah.
Get it when we get it. If there's not any more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from Transportation Director. Jeremy Sproat, can I add any more words to that? No.
I'll second.
A motion and second to approve the recommendation from Mr. Sproat for the new activity Bluebird Micro Bird for $67,234. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Change order, consider change order for 1968 restroom remodel for $11,351, item C.
So again, privacy concerns noted by the inspector during our final occupancy walkthrough resulted in those, in that most recent change order. And then in the detail, I kind of walked you through the total change orders for the entire project. So the two previous change orders for 102,735 were the steel I-beam to kind of support the second floor, decking and reinforcement. And then the bulk of it was down here in the high school kitchen for the upgrades of the new stove and hood and ventilation system. So we had a contingency of $69,264, so all-in project of $940,000, which is $44,822 over the original contract, so.
Does that include the 11,000?
It does, yep.
Did our contractor have to do a bunch of rework to put those in, or were they just added?
Just added, yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're interested, we can walk up there now. You might have seen them when you were here for conferences, but the work is done.
Okay.
Yep. Just needs paint to kind of match the current facade, but there's really just extending some of the walls that were there.
Sure.
Yep.
further discussion on that one? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the change order for the 1968 remodel, $11,351.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Items D and E, Jackie, are yours. It looks like we need to do them separate.
We do, the state is requiring each of them to be separate, and I don't know if they're really mine, they're kind of in the board packet for you. As you can see, I don't have any control over it, it's simply a plug-in and done for us. We just need to agree that we would like that in MSA. Basically spending authority for things that weren't planned, such as an open enrollment that weren't on the count the year before, and then our ELL beyond 5 years, so students that have been in our program longer than 5 years. Obviously, you can see we didn't have any increased enrollment, unfortunately.
Any questions for Jackie? If not, I would entertain a motion for item D first.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item D. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item E, let's go right into it.
Same
Okay
thing,
with
yep,
you?
same thing, go ahead.
All right, can I get a motion on that one?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve item E. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item F, early graduation request for
Carter Robertson. Mr. Engelman met with Carter. You can see Carter's reason there. Just wants to kind of get started with his full-time job. He's right on track. Should he pass all of his classes this semester to graduate before Christmas. He would be allowed to walk at graduation, participate in prom if he would like to second semester.
Is there a deadline for when they have to be submitted?
There isn't anything in policy, as long as it's done before the end of the semester and the board approves of it, then there is no, November 1st or December 1st deadline. And this year, since we did, and it's historically, Central Lyon ends the first semester before Christmas, so there isn't anything necessarily in policy.
What's he looking at for a job? Any idea?
I don't know. Again, 9 early graduates is higher than, as I look back over the last 5 years. I think the previous high was 3 in 1 year. So none of the students directly identified, COVID or any of those specific reasons. Most of them wanting to work or even start college a semester early.
Okay, anything else on that one?
Make a motion to approve Carter Robinson for early graduation.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the early graduation request for Carter Robertson. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Announcements, dates to remember.
Yeah, I kind of already mentioned the 7th and 8th grade their first basketball games tonight. We can hear the band concert going on right now in the gym. Another concert next week for middle school band, and then the first girls basketball game is the 24th, and we've got Thanksgiving break on there. It's hard to believe we've already talking about that. And then after we come back from Thanksgiving, then we'll have our first, again, depending upon how the boys do this weekend, doubleheader boy-girl basketball games and our first wrestling meet that first week. And then National Honor Society induction will be Sunday, December 6th, and then the high school winter concert on that Monday, the 7th. And then the second Monday of December is the 14th, so that would be our next board meeting date. It's also the last day of the first semester. Anything I'm missing, Mr. Herman?
I think that's it. It's a good list.
Veterans Day on Wednesday, we're not planning a traditional Veterans Day assembly like we've done historically. And I know Mrs. Grafing and classroom teachers are planning some multimedia thank yous and recognitions of our veterans in our community.
How does 14th look for everybody? Is our usual time? No, we had also chatted about potentially having a work session or two. Is your preference, Mr. Jorth, to have that after the board meeting? Or do you want to do that on a separate date? Can't remember how long the December board meeting is traditionally, if it's a short or a long agenda.
Yeah, I know we visited about, some acceleration programming, some, looking at some options, not only for second semester, but some programming into the future. So, I would anticipate anywhere between a half hour to an hour conversation, because I'd want to include some teachers, so you guys can hear from them directly. Last December, we kind of had a mid-year review for myself. So that was something we can do in January, if you guys want to do it in January, or we can try to find a work session date between now and December. I know Thanksgiving's in there, but if people need to review their calendars, and I send out one of those doodle polls, and people can kind of weigh in on different multiple dates that work, and then we take the one that works best. I'm happy to do that as well.
I think that'd be a good starting point. If that's okay with you, Dave, try and maybe find something in between. It's all right, trust the board.
And then,
Try and get something done before the next.
A work session between now and the 14th is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, yep. Pretty full, or see what the dates are?
Depends on what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
because, we talked about maybe a PEPL or SAVE, conversation. Maybe I can put a calendar together of different, topics for work sessions. But I know the first one we want to have a conversation about is some accelerating programming, some opportunities for the board to ask questions of some teachers and stuff.
Let's look at the school calendar and send some dates out.
Okay.
See what we can get done for the.
On the 14th, it should be pretty close to being here at 7. I think there's a freshman girls basketball, so that, if it looks like that's home at 6 o'clock, so.
Yeah.
I just might be a few minutes late like today.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't know, but I think it'll work for me to meet in between now and the next board meeting, but I know I have kind of a lot going on in evenings, but
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be, with the holidays and stuff, it gets a little bit trickier. But
Yeah.
Last year's board agenda for September had 4 items under new business.
In December?
December?
December, yep. Sorry, did I say something else?
September.
September, sorry. So, December of 19, 4 items on that list. So-
Must be those nerves of being president now.
Yeah. Exactly right. So, yeah, we maybe, if the dates don't work for everybody, we can just try and throw it on that board meeting. We'll just have to see what we can do.
And I'd be open to, I don't know about you all coming from further out of town possibly, but, if it's 3:30 or 4 o'clock for an hour or something, I mean, if we're gonna have teachers there anyway, it would probably behoove us to try to be as close to the ending time as possible, but not that it would have to be, but I would be open to something like that as well when you're looking at times for those options.
Yeah, and I know we need to the two of you, we need to
yeah.
coordinate a sharing and, committee meeting with GLR as well, so.
Was it typically done at the noon hour?
Yes, over the noon hours when they've been. So again, I'll put something out for a work session, a couple work sessions, and then also some committee meetings as well, so that we can kind of touch base and begin to kind of ramp up for the second half of the year.
Sounds good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. We're there.
We are there.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.
Okay, so I've got the substantial completion certificate, and Dave's name is printed on here.
Just a designate.
I think it's just this one.
No, I just assume.
Yep.
Until someone yells out nay, they're a yes, so just
Okay.
FYI.
Duly noted.
11,
My hearing is failing me as I
9.
get to more than middle age.
Well, never mind then. Never mind. We're good.
All right, thank you. Andy,
I'll let you.
this is just an addendum. We approved this contract earlier, but with COVID, there was no ISAS assessment for kind of placement in any courses that kids are taking at NCC. So they're using their own placement tests. And so they didn't update the contract originally, so this is just an
Totally
addendum
like the next guy.
for 1 year
Um,
change. So sign both of them, we keep one, and then we'll send one back.
yeah, he's really settled in quick.
That helps.
Yep. He's, yeah,
It's a ninth,
like
right?
a group guy.
It's the ninth.
School's actually going